Page 36, this is a theme from the Unfinished Symphony by Schubert. A very famous piece of music. I encourage you to just go listen to it. This melody is from the first movement. It's a little bit tricky because the right hand a lot of times is playing on the upbeat or the ands of the notes. It's one and, two and, it's playing on the and. So I look it over and see it's about a page long. Clef signs are treble and bass clef. One sharp in the key signature. This is in the key of G major. So make sure you're doing the scales and go ahead and do the arpeggios too for G major and E minor, because E minor has one sharp. A 3/4 time signature. I'll take it one hand at a time because this is a little bit tricky when putting the hands together. Right hand, you're starting with a B and a D here. So it's here. And it's one and. You're playing on the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and rest and 2 and you're just playing on the ands. That's all it is. If you can get that, okay, let's go down to the third line. At the end of the second line, you're still here. Now, actually, in any time in that second line, last measure, when you're doing these, because they're all repeated, you can change it at any time. You change the hand position from a 2/4 to a 1/3. That's sort of what I recommend you do. Go ahead and get into position for the third line at the end of the second line. So it's in the last line here. And that way I'm there already. And just look here. 1 and 2 and. There. Third line, first measure. 1 and 2 and. It's just like eighth notes throughout. 1 and 2 and then for the second measure, now you're playing on the beat, you get the melody. So again, at the beginning of the measure, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 1 and. Remember that dotted rhythm. Keep that 16th note short. So 1 E and 1 E and. Okay. Fourth line, second measure. Okay, now come up 2. This gets us in position for what's coming. Okay, that's it for the most part. The last 2 measures, you're down here. I recommend it to get ready for the last measure. You reach down to your second finger, and now you're ready. Don't use thumb on both, that's what I'm saying. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and. Yeah. The left hand gets the melody at first, and then it gets to play on the ands later. So you hear the melody. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and. 1 E and a 1 E and a. Second line, 1 and 2. Now scratch up your thumb because we got to change hand position. We're going to cross over here. That's all right. Third line is 1 and 2 and here, and it's 1 and. Now we're going to play on the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. The last 2 measures at the bottom, you're here. Go ahead and change to a 2-1 here. And then when you come down, I recommend you do a 5-2. Because I don't have to move as far. If I come down with the thumb, I got to move a little farther, whatever. And then, so I'm going to go here. I'm not moving quite as far. Then we put the hands together, and this can be like starting over, but just work it out really, really super slow. Keep these eighth note pulses really slow. You almost treat them like quarter pulses, quarter note. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and. See, on the and a 3, they're both playing together. Again, 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and. Okay. Second line, first measure, we're here. Same rhythm we've had before. Let's go to the third line. First measure. It's 1. Say 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now it's switched. 1 and. So that's the piece, pretty much. Hardest part is the rhythm. Once you got that, it's not too bad. Once I have the notes and the rhythms figured out, and the fingering, I get rid of the hesitations, no hesitations anywhere, and then I think about the articulation. Here, it's very connected. Here, it's... They have the... Listen to the orchestras play it. I think you'll find, for the most part, they pretty much connect this whole first line together, all the way to the half note, and then you lift up for the second line. Lift up, we have a rest, you have to. Yeah, and the third line, first measure, connect all that together. There's no silence in there. This leads into that. It leads, so connect it. And again, I'm going to connect the melody all the way to the half note and then lift up, like taking a breath. Yeah. It's interpretation. If you want to try lifting up between each of these curved lines, that's up to you, but I think that's a little bit choppy. I think it needs to flow better. My problem with this one that I have is I tend to play these upbeats. I tend to play them staccato. Short, I just do it. And that's not what's written. That's not what you want. You want to connect them. Now, once I have the articulation under control, then I'll think about the dynamics. They give you 2 at the beginning. I disagree. You don't need 2. You need 1 dynamic between the staves to tell you what the melody is, and everything else needs to be in the background. The MP applies to the melody. The PP doesn't need to be there. You should do that anyway. So this is moderately soft, mezzo piano. Sort of soft. This is very soft. You get down to third line, you see it again, and now they've switched the PP and MP. You don't need them. You don't need either one of these right here. You've been moderately soft the whole time, and this is very soft. Now, that makes the whole thing basically MP, moderately soft, mezzo piano. No. Get into it, and once you can feel it, you're not thinking about notes and rhythms and all, you got the mechanic stuff out of the way, you're getting into the music. If you feel getting a little louder in softer places, put it in, feel it. Yeah, it would be different for different people. You listen to the orchestras and you can hear them getting louder and softer in places. You might try that. At the end, they put in a retardando to slow down. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Don't know how much to slow down. You just slow down, I guess. The speed is allegro moderato, which is moderately fast. Here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. That's not moderately fast. But it's the feel of it. Because on these, you're playing eighth note pulses all the time. And that's going to slow it down a bit. Here. It'll slow it down a little bit. It's the feel of it. The speed, you got it. It would be easier if they could just say, take it at this speed. Or if allegro always meant this speed, or moderato always meant this speed. But it doesn't work that way. You have to consider the music. It feels sort of fast, moderately fast, that's all. Now you notice at the end of the page there at the bottom, they give a little bit of pedal marking. And it starts out, you don't get a down pedal marking. In other words, this is a continuation of something that was happening before. They're indicating that you can pedal this. I think that's a poor way of indicating it. They should say something up there to tell you use pedal or whatever. A lot of music doesn't though. It's up to you to decide whether you want to use pedal or not. You'll learn it without pedal first to make sure the hands and fingers are doing what they need to do. And then if you add pedal, you can hear the difference. Be very critical on what the pedal is doing to the sound. Well, this is an orchestra piece, so we want a full sound. We want the overtones. So yes, we would pedal this all the way through. Now, typically with pedaling, you would say, okay, you change the pedal when the harmony changes. When these chords to this, to this, when that changes, that's when you change the pedal. But you have to be very careful with that and listen, and is that really it? Because if you do that on this one, it messes up the melody. It blurs it. It's this. Is this yuck? Okay, so we can't just change it with the harmony. We're going to have to change it elsewhere. Well, listen to the melody. We don't really want to pedal the eighth notes any more than we have to, but we do want to connect these. Now we need the pedal to connect them. So I may be changing it every beat, or every 2 beats, or every 3 beats, or I might lift up for 1 beat, or whatever. It just experiment. So don't copy me, please. That's just one way of doing it. If I played it again, I would pedal it differently. I'd keep experimenting with the pedal and what sounds do I like or not like. Let's play this together very slowly and check the notes and the rhythms. I'm not going to use the pedal on this because you can hear the notes better without the pedal, and we're not performing it. As far as using the pedal, you do what your teacher tells you to do, or I sort of showed you one way of doing it. Just don't let the pedal blur up the melody too much. I'll give us 3 counts, and because there's 8th note pulses throughout, I'm going to put the metronome on 8th notes. So it's going to beat 8th notes, but I'm going to give us 3/4 note counts to come in. 1, and ready, and go, and.